I'm very glad to introduce Anand. Could you please, ladies, could you please change the... So Anand is an INSEAD alumnus and a wonderful speaker and a moderator of various events. So Anand, could you please invite our protagonists? Michael Beutler from Kering Group, then Melika Dahlouk from Numa, Juliette Scott-Crevet from Firmenich. Thank you for coming. And last but not least, Kunal Kapoor, who is also the INSEAD alumnus. And Kunal is having, here it is.
So, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I think my watch is accurate. So this is the last panel before lunch. Obviously, we want to make it as productive as possible before we take a break. I'm very honored to be leading this panel. I'll very quickly introduce myself. Actually, I don't need to do that. Katya just introduced me, so enough about me. Before I give the opening statement, can I ask the panelists, please, to introduce themselves? If you introduce yourself.
Hello. My name is Kunal. I'm the founder of The Luxury Closet, which is an online marketplace to resell luxury. It was founded in 2012 out of an apartment, my apartment, the Luxury Closet was my wife's closet. So we had very humble startup beginnings. We then we went from 1 people to 3 people to now just about 100 people in offices in New Delhi and actually our corporate headquarters in Dubai. The reason I'm here is because we do profitably, sustainably resell luxury, right? So it's profitable. We're a venture-backed business. And we are very sustainable because we take from the closets, we put it back online, and then we send it back to the closets. So I guess that's that.
I'm in charge of naturals and sustainability for the perfumery division of Firmenich. My job is actually to bring all the many great achievements that Gilbert Agostin just mentioned into the product. In our case, this is into the fragrance, into the bottle. It's very operational. This is about making sure we understand the market, the brands that are in the market, and the conscious consumer, and mobilize all the resources within Firmenich, from purchasing, R&D, our creators, our sustainability team, in order to make that happen.
Hi, I'm Michael Beutler. I'm from the Kering Group. How many people in the room, show of hands, have heard of Kering? Okay, maybe because we're in Paris, because when in London, if I do that, I have to say, okay, we're Gucci, or Saint Laurent, or Bottega Veneta, etc. Okay, so I think one thing that really makes us, stands us out from, say, the other luxury brands and groups is we're very focused on sustainability as part of our strategy. It's really coming from the top of our group. We've had a strategy that we launched last year for 2025, which is very ambitious to reduce our footprint. We measure our footprint through something called the environmental profit and loss, where we measure all of our impacts all the way back to the supply chain. And we've set a commitment to reduce that footprint by over 40%. We also do set science-based targets. We also have really taken a leadership role in animal welfare and biodiversity, and also, looking at the last panel, gender equity in our group. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Melika Dahlouk, and I'm the founder of Numa. Numa is an organization supporting artisans. So our main goal was to support artisans that are experts in what they do. The idea is to give them the same status that artisans have in Paris or in Italy, but they come from emerging markets. We started in Tunisia with 3 artisans, and now we have a team of 20. We support them along the way with training, design, access to international market opportunities, and really helping them build their own company after we're gone. And we've been quite successful at that. I mean, for 10 years, we've seen a big evolution. We call ourselves an ethical company because we need terminology, but I think sustainability is really part of who we are. Artisans are sustainable by definition. They don't waste, they recycle, they make their own tools. They work with, in fact, we are in the luxury business, so they work with precious metals. They recycle everything. For Numa, it has been key to develop that sustainability throughout, supporting the community and working with recycled and upcycled material only, and sustainably sourced fibers as well. And I think this is very natural for us, but for me personally, I've had the chance to support other companies and including brands, and we do bespoke lines for hotels and luxury establishments. And I have to say this demand is growing, and the demand for unique, the demand for handmade and sustainable just makes sense to all.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for your introductions. Before we go into the meat of it, I just want to recap what we've seen this morning. I think one of the first presentations on the impact of any kind of industry or commerce on the planet was deeply profound. If there's 2 things I took away from that, however, is on one hand, the brands and all of you who are responsible for brands have a stake in what to do, but at the same time, us as consumers, we actually have to take responsibility for our purchases. The reason, however, I've been looking forward to this panel is essentially that there's a bit of a contradiction. None of us as individuals who love consumer products, I think, would ever say to ourselves, you know what, I'm never going to buy another shoe or handbag again. The brand told me it's a classic, it'll last forever, my shopping days are over, for the sake of the planet. And none of us as professionals will go to our bosses and say, you know what, I've lowered the growth targets for 2019, but don't worry, the planet will benefit from it. So the quandary of what we do as professionals and consumers versus what we actually have to do for sustainability is perhaps a little bit of a contradiction. So ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to kick off with your opening statements as to what do you see next for luxury and sustainability.
Well, I guess I think we've cracked that one. And it's because we've decoupled sustainability and profitability. You don't have to compromise profitability to be sustainable, right? So again, what do we do is well, before we get there, let's talk about, like, as it was mentioned today, fashion is a very browse-based, instinctive purchase. So people keep on buying more and more, and there's $300 billion of luxury being sold a year. The population of the world really is not going up. So every year, $300 billion, that means the same closets keep on getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And in luxury as well, the top brands don't discount. That means they manufacture, and what doesn't sell, they need to figure out what to do with it. So entirety builds like 2 unsustainable cycles from the point of the consumer, who keep on buying products, and then manufacturers who keep on manufacturing these products. Honestly, though, I must say that I approached it from the profitability aspect. I didn't approach it from the sustainability aspect. And we found what I would consider is the most sustainable way to bridge this gap, right? So you take from the closets, and then you put it back into other closets. And then for that, you make a margin, a very healthy margin, which are 35%. It's the highest, one of the highest margin marketplaces in the world. And, and yes, I don't go to my investors and say, I'm building a sustainable business, would you like to invest in sustainability? We go and say, we're building a large business because we see, issues in the way the market is, and we see, how should I say, like, that there's no bridge to the future, And even from the customer's perspective, it doesn't work. There's things missing, and then the resale model comes in, and it bridges that gap very, 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 very well. So I would say that everybody should take the closets and put it online with the luxury closet, and then you take that money, and then you buy again from us, and then you just keep buying from us.
When it comes to perfume, which is one side of what was described in fashion, it's really a tipping point today with our clients. We see that every day, each time I am with one of our customers. We see that with consumers. So people were talking about it, now it's about doing it. The future is about doing things that have an impact. As Gilbert mentioned, the consumer before, and I was struck to see these data, they are very recent ones. Of course, fragrances before, you probably think that it's about being feminine, it's about being attractive, it's being about provocative a bit, femininity, elegance, all of that. All of these criteria now are at the bottom, and when you ask a 20-year-old or 25-year-old what they want for their fragrance, it's all about confidence, it's sustainability, authenticity, self-expression, transparency. So how do we make that happen is the biggest question that we all have, I think, and this is our today and our future until we make it happen. We have to reconcile, as you said, what the reason why for buying a perfume, a fashion, we don't understand why, we were said, it's pleasure, this delight, this experience. We need to keep that, that's the reason. But we need to do it in a way which is really circular and shared with everyone. So we need to make sure that we can be trusted, the trust, and I think you would agree with that. The transparency and the trust is the reputation, and it is the bread and butter of luxury. The quality, the trust, the transparency is absolutely important, and this is one of the things that we bring with our own metrics and our own tool, is the transparency, the facts. There's so much confusion, there's so much misinformation. People don't know that in many instances, having natural into a fragrance is not going to be sustainable. In many instances, this is not the case because it takes much more water, energy, and it is wasting. So why put that much into a bottle if there is a much better responsible choice which provides pleasure? But we need to educate. There's so much confusion today. Don't be afraid of trying to really walk the talk. And the third is about protecting. So it is really making sure that delight, trust, and protect. And this is where you need to have the purpose, the commitment, the consistency, because getting the right palette and the right creators and the right things don't happen overnight. You need to build that over time so that you can bring that silently if you want to be silent, be more communicative if you want to, but you have it. We have our creators, we have our ingredients, the most naturally sourced ingredients in the world. We have the biggest footprint globally in the entire industry, and some naturals would take 20 years to be able to provide you any revenue and profit. This means that you need to be committed to that, and you need to make sure you do that for the future of naturals. You also need to have the most innovative ingredients, because this is about innovation. All the new ingredients we bring in our panel, in our palette, are biodegradable. That's not that important for maybe a perfume, you think, but in the end, everything goes to the river and will go to the ocean. So we need to have the proof and the measure, and this is where the technology comes, the data, the right metrics. So we have set up our tool, which really talks about what is inside the fragrance and whether these are good or less good ingredients from a claim standpoint, but we also measure the impact that this fragrance has on the planet. And we can also provide what is the social impact that this fragrance has on the planet. All of these data, we can share them with our clients so that it feeds your own product and strategy, and you can trust us as a supplier to be doing what's good for everyone, for the conscious consumer, for the planet, and for the people that are living on the planet.
When I think of luxury, it's a trendsetter. And it's a trendsetter for the apparel industry. And I'm just out of curiosity, how many people here actually think about their own carbon footprint? Is that something that so a lot of people are thinking about that. Now, this statistic is interesting because 8 to 10% of your footprint is apparel. So when we think about luxury, luxury sets the trends for the rest of the apparel. And when we have something on the runway, it gets copied by high street, by more of the mass fashion brands. So it's important for us to think about that in terms of responsibility, and also to think the future of luxury also depends on sustainability, because we also depend on raw materials. We think about really what we are. Yes, you think of the runway, you think of the store experience and all that, but when you get back to the roots of it, we're agriculture and mining. Why? Because almost all the raw materials we're using are coming from agriculture, whether it's leather, whether it's wool, cotton, linen. And for jewelry and watches, it's from mining. So in our roots, we're actually very connected to the earth. So that's why we need to understand that connection and understand in a changing global environment, climate change, demands on natural resources, how to sustain those resources in a responsible way so we can make quality luxury products in the future as we do today. So a lot of our focus is around, to us, making a more sustainable business, and to us, the luxury and sustainability to our CEO is very connected.
Regarding sustainability, I mean, I think being on that side, you know, as an ethical brand and sustainable brand, and when we started 10 years ago, it was really disturbing. I think now it's a buzzword, everybody accepts it. It's a bit wishy-washy, but I started using it 25 years ago when I was working with the UN, and it was about sustainable development as opposed to quick fixes to emergency action. And I think now there's a bit of a discrepancy in what luxury is doing, especially in fashion, because really the nature, the origin is about craftsmanship, it's about the product. In our daily life, really, it's all about the product, the finishes, the craftsmanship that goes into it, what savoir-faire goes into it. It's based on watching the artisan, what they can do, and produce a product that they can work with. But in the fashion world, there is much more than that nowadays. There's marketing, there is shareholders' expectations. There is a lot of things that we as a company don't face, but a lot of companies face. And I think the sustainability talk has to go way beyond what company does, what a certain company does. And I know a lot of the big brands are doing a lot, but I think we have to also tackle the mindset. You know, what do we really want nowadays? How much consuming do we need? Companies like yours and a lot of the projects that I love to, you know, I wear vintage clothes. I use a lot of recycling things on our daily lives. Most of my friends do. I think it's not a trend anymore. It's really part of who we are. If we can afford it. And recycling is even a great asset for developing countries because there's also a lot of thrift markets that allow them to get dressed. So this is really compulsory, I would say. But something that is rarely mentioned is really why we do it and how much do we have to sell. Can't we go back to really having essential products that are of quality, that are really at the essence of luxury, that last? I think this is really what we aim to do at Numa, but even when we work with companies, this is really what we try to focus on. And I don't know, I'm sending it out to the panel. How much can we do about that?
So let's build on that last point, and let me throw out to all four of you this idea of making a product which, as you said, is a classic. Do we really have to buy so much? At the same time, organizations have to show trust. You have to show that sustainability is becoming fundamental to what you do. And of course, we have the answer, which is, okay, if you're going to shop from the closet. Is that a good tagline? Can I get a T-shirt saying that? Okay, cool. All right, so, but let me throw to all four of you fast fashion. Okay? This started, as you said, with companies who were copying. They would say, worshipping what's happening in the luxury. But even now, the top luxury brands are getting massive pressure to constantly come up with new stuff, new demand. People can see a fashion show live on YouTube now and expect those products to be available immediately as opposed to the classic four times a year. What do we do about fast fashion when it comes to sustainability? Well, I know your answer already.
Well, I actually let them give the solutions, but I'll aggravate the problem. Fast fashion scares the living Jesus out of me. It's because, I mean, if you just look at the clothes and you see how much plastic is in the clothes now, it's an insane amount of plastic in the clothes. Buttons are clothes. They used to be bones. Everything, there's so much plastic. Threads. In fact, I saw something on Kickstarter, which was this little ball that collects plastic in when you wash it, so that it doesn't go into the water. So yeah, that's. I'll let you do the solutions.
I think there's a few things. One, yeah, there's a very rapid dynamic, I'll say, that's changing in the world in terms of, you have kids now that will buy something, put it on, put their photo, take a picture put it on Instagram, and then sell it, I say, into someone else's closet to maybe do the same thing. So there's a whole phenomenon going on out there in terms of how people look at fashion and consume it, which is changing, maybe not in the most sustainable way. Even though we hear lots of statistics about millennials and their concern about sustainability, it doesn't necessarily translate to the wallet yet. But that's not why we do it. We do it for more as a long-term, as I said, a long-term view on sustainability of supply chain and sustainability of the resources we depend on. So that's one aspect to keep in mind. I think putting the business model aspect aside, because I'm a sustainability person, I'm going to stay in my lane here, our thing is whatever product we're making, we want to make it as sustainably as possible. We want it to be 100% traceable. We want it to meet our standard, what we've created, carrying standards of what it means to be sustainable. So from an operational level, we want to deliver on, I'll say, the promise to consumers, because consumers believe if you're paying that much money for something, it's done in the right way. It's done responsibly, people are treated fairly, the environment is taken into account, it isn't creating a problem. But in fact, we really don't know as consumers what products are doing or not doing. So I guess we see our responsibility is to deliver on that promise and to actually make that in terms of transparency and in terms of trust to be more sustainable, to invest in new technologies, to look at sustainable sourcing that aren't always more expensive. Sometimes there's no cost to them, but it's convincing, industrial farming, to go more toward regenerative agriculture, because industrial farming has huge environmental impacts. Yet we've been told a myth about how powerful and how important that is for society. In fact, when you think of regenerative agriculture, it's going back to an older way of doing agriculture, but it's actually as productive. And when you think of animal welfare and the other things that concern consumers, it actually is going back to the old way of animals grazing and not these huge industrial farms. So there's things like that we can do that can make a big difference. It's not necessarily apparent to the consumer, but as I said, it delivers on a promise of what the expectations are, I think, which are rightly so, of what luxury should mean.
Okay, so scared of fast fashion, yet we can cope it. But what fascinates me is nevertheless the entire culture of our industry is now being matched with new technologies. People are talking about things like AI. So to give you a very simple example of this, I don't live in Paris. I arrive in Paris, Google gives me a notification, which is, would you like to eat where the locals eat? So Google, of course, knows where everyone's phones are. They know where the people who actually live in Paris. They can make me a very qualitative recommendation on what kind of cafes and restaurants to go to, which makes me feel that I'm doing something which is not in the tourist beaten track. That only scratches the surface of what Instagram, YouTube, social media are pouring into us. And as the previous slide showed, almost 2-3 hours a day to convince us to shop, right? To convince us that this particular item is essential to you representing your personal identity to the rest of the world. And then a few weeks later, a few months later, it used to be 4 times a year saying, you know that item we told you was essential? It's not essential anymore. Here's a new item that you need, which is absolutely essential. So nevertheless, who takes responsibility for this? Is it the brands who say, you know what, we're going to now focus on quality, less plastics, we're going back to 4 times a year? Is it the multimedia people, the ones who do all of this AI and communication, are they the ones who are going to do it? Is it the consumers, is it the influencers? Who's going to do it? Because right now, I don't see fast fashion falling off. On the contrary, I see it being accelerated by the mere fact we're all so addicted to social media.
So because you mentioned AI and because you mentioned personalization, and I think like the fourth industrial revolution is about replacement, which means doing less, because the machine does it for you. And in this case, I would hope that we go towards like machine learning telling you to be more accurate, and accuracy actually decreasing the number of wrong choices you make. So I'd hope that it says today you should wear this, or today you should buy that, or even better, you say you really need 20 outfits in the whole year. You already have 10. You need to buy 10, and these are the exact 10 for you. So I would just go buy 10, and that all of that just goes all the way to the manufacturer. I don't know. I think that the answer is that it doesn't make you buy more. I think it brings efficiency in the whole system, but doesn't necessarily destroy margins, because of accuracy, people will pay more, and then you can charge more, and that needs to go everywhere.
I'll make a comment on that. For the Google example, there's restaurants all over Paris that are ordering food today. No one knows where you're going to eat. So by nature, there's going to be more food purchased than, I'm going to use an example of you, obviously other people are eating, but there's going to be more food purchased than is going to be served. Well, that's one of the challenges in the fashion industry in general, is if someone wants to wear, if I want to buy I'll use me as an example, a white shirt today, and let's say I don't work for Kering, I want a white dress shirt. No one in the universe knows where I'm going to buy that, which brand I'm going to buy. I'll go out and look at a few different brands, maybe try on 3 or 4 of them. But if the brands don't have those shirts in stock, I'm not going to buy from them. And that's the general problem in the fashion industry, is it's a build-to-stock industry. Now with technology, maybe it can be more, body scanning, it can be more of a build-to-order, and that can shift. But that also has to be matched with the craftsmanship aspect, that we're not just creating all these automated robotic factories, because there's other concerns from that sustainability standpoint in terms of jobs and people's livelihoods. So you have to match those two things together. I'll say the slow fashion of craftsmanship with, I'll say, anticipating demand and trends that technology can bring us now. And so maybe that can help address some of those issues. I think it amplified, it's in luxury, it's more amplified in the fast fashion side, because they're making so much and a lot of it isn't getting purchased.
Regarding slow fashion and fast fashion, in fact, I mean, for us, slow fashion is the nature of what we do, because we do things slowly, and we need the time. But for big brands, the demands, I think it's quite a specific case for fashion, because you need to produce 5 seasons. When we exhibited in international trade, for example, here we did a show in Paris, we were the only brand that doesn't have seasons. And I mean, when you get to 5 seasons, and then I don't know how many runways in so many regions with different demands, and the whole system has to change. I mean, right now you get the trends for 2020. We know what everybody's going to wear in 3 years' time. This is dysfunctional. So we talk about slow fashion as if it was something new. It's actually what was luxury about, and it's been successful for tourism, for example, where you have small units, really environmentally conscious, barefoot luxury at super high prices, extraordinary margins, and they're doing great. So I don't think it's a matter of profit. It's certainly a matter of pressure. And the pressure comes from the shareholders. It doesn't come from the consumers, because it's actually the market that puts the pressure on the consumers. And I think it has to come from a major institutional decision-making at the top of the fashion industry and probably all other industries. And if I may add just one little thing, because I know there is pressure here, there's really one element that I wanted to mention. It's about ethics, because this is all about ethics. But one key thing you mentioned is about the youth. And we're experiencing something that I think we should all really consider. Generation Z and millennials want sustainability, but the social media and advertising and marketing is actually pushing them as if it was a reaction now to push them to consume more extremely expensive items. And when you know that a t-shirt is manufactured for $2 and is sold $200, and sneakers are appealing to teenagers at $2,000, I think this is really something we have to think about. And it's really in the interest of the luxury brands to look at long term, because they will be the buyers of the future. And before they really turn their back on all of this, because this is happening, there is huge minimalistic movements coming up, there's vegan movements, kids want something different. And when they open their eyes, there won't be any customers. So the idea is really to change the mindset now, produce less, and with great craftsmanship.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much to the panelists.